Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in today to talk about Oshi chapter number 151. This chapter is titled Catch Ball, and it still really feels weird to me that we are actually on chapter number 151 of Oshi now. It just feels so weird and random, and it's like, oh yeah, there's 151 chapters of this series, because, I mean, I still think of Oshi as a very recent series, and really, as far as recent series should be allowed to go in my mind, is like 100 chapters, because on social media platforms like Twitter or X, whatever you feel like calling it, there are always those tweets popping up like, yeah, here are the new Nujin manga, and half of them are all manga that are over 100 chapters, right? And yes, I think Nujin can be like, I don't know, 4 years or so, which would still put Oshi in that sort of ballpark of like, 200 chapters, like 160 or so. I feel like that's like a good 4 year with a series that takes breaks and all of that sort of thing like Oshi does. But the whole idea of it being like a recent and new manga, by all means, it is in like the grand scheme of history, yeah. It's only from like 3 to 4 years ago. I actually don't know when Oshi started its manga run. Let me see, I think it was like October of 2020, maybe, if I'm thinking right, but let me actually Google this. When did Oshi manga start? And I have now gotten an answer of nothing. Come on, where's the, where do we go? April 2020. Yeah, it's over 4 years old, so I don't know, is it still considered a new Jin manga? What is this? But to get off of that old weird debate that it's like the same idea, alright, I'm going into a tangent again, but it's that same idea of like, oh hey, when is a video game console retro, right? It's like, oh, is it when it has like this many copies in circulation? No, that's never been a criteria, but like, what's the date that makes it like, oh yeah, this is now a retro console now? It's just one of those weird things, but alright. Either way, let's talk about Oshi. So last time we had the whole chapter, chapter number 150, the big milestone chapter, where pretty much Aqua talked inside with his other self, Goron, and I sort of explained that in like the last video, like, while they are one mind and one sort of person, for like the audience to get split off into like two to have more effective drama. And we're going to get a little bit into sort of that, and I'll talk about it again later in this chapter number 151. But last time, the Goron and Aqua sort of vestiges talked to each other, and pretty much the whole thing was like, at the end, Goron was like, hey, you wield this knife for however you want to choose your destiny. But also, hey, don't you want to go off Kana? And that's pretty much what that said, and then we got a little bit of introspection into Kana, where she's like, oh man, I really want to go off Aqua. And it's sort of leading up to like, yeah, these two are going to get together. And the last scene of last chapter was Kana sending Aqua a text message saying like, hey, do you want to hang out on Saturday? And as we'll see in this chapter, they hang out on Saturday, but with that, I just say let's go and hop into it, as we start this chapter with what I can only believe to be a television interview with Kana. As we see up in the top right corner, there's sort of like a 9:21 sort of saying like, hey, this is being filmed at 9:21 in the morning, which is actually only, 26 minutes after I'm filming this video right now at now it's 9:48 in the morning, so it's now 27 minutes. How could I lie like that? How come there has to be seconds to change as soon as I say something like that? But yeah, we see this is being broadcast earlier in the morning, as we see it sort of like got a little bit of a tag on like, hey, this is entertainment hot news, as we pretty much see it's an interview. It's like, hey, this is a much talked about genius actress getting up and close and personal with Kana Amaria-san, right? As we pretty much see that there's just a reporter interviewing Kana about, hey, you're a famous actor, want to tell us a few things? And we see that it's what's pretty much going on here, as we pretty much see the first thing like Kana saying is like, yeah, I believe in like that learning is a lifelong experience, so I read all kinds of books, which I think is just like the most like, hey children, we want you to read, so we're going to use our famous actors to pretty much say like, yeah, you guys should read if you want to be cool like me, which I've never seen Kana as the type of character to sit down and like enjoy reading books, but I would be willing to add that to her character, because I think that's something that would make Kana more interesting in my eyes. But yeah, I've never once sat down like, oh yeah, Kana is the avid reader to all of that. I've just always sort of put that onto Akane, because she's always seemed a lot more academically willing to do that sort of thing than Kana is, but oh no, it is what it is. But we pretty much see that a few other things are happening, as there's a little bit of narration that comes over the screen as a reporter pretty much just says like, hey, this is a little shot of an interview we just did, and now here's just a voiceover that we're putting over it, as it's just like, hey, the child prodigy who once garnered public attention is now active as the center of the idol group Bikon Mahachi, which is currently on the rise. However, her acting skills are still intact. I don't know what intent meant in that sentence, but it's just like, yeah. However, her acting skills are still intact. Her particularly immersive performance in director Masashi Norishima's latest film, Overlooking, has been highly praised by everyone involved. Which is a little bit of the interesting thing, because if I'm not mistaken, now I've got to go to the Oshi no Ko wiki. I'm pretty sure that director Shima was the director that the whole Scandal arc was based off of, if I'm not mistaken. Which, yeah. Why can I not find it on the, what if I go to Oshi no Ko and story arcs, maybe? Because I think that was like Act 9 or something was the whole Scandal arc. I really, no, it's not even listed on there in the Oshi no Ko wiki. I probably just need to figure this out later and not right this second. But I'm pretty sure that Shima was the whole person who that Scandal arc was based off of, where Kana did a few things, and you guys remember the point of that arc. I don't think I've got to blatantly explain all of it, right? And the interview just continues saying like, hey, today we're going to explore the behind the scene of Kana Amari's acting ability. And we pretty much cut away from there. As we see it, this is blaring on a television as Aqua is getting all dressed up. As we see the Aqua sort of just standing here getting all dressed up, he's got a nice long-sleeved white-collared shirt on, and he's currently putting on a tie, and he's pretty much tying his tie, getting it all ready. And I find it really funny that Aqua has his phone with its camera out facing, sitting in his shirt pocket, which is just a look. And for Aqua to be pulling that off, it definitely makes me age him like at least 40 years older than he actually is. But I'd say Aqua is very much rocking the look. But at this second, we suddenly cut out into the streets of, I guess, Japan somewhere. I mean, of course it's Japan. I don't know where in Japan. I was about to say like in Tokyo, but I don't remember if Oshi no Ko is located in Tokyo or somewhere else or wherever it is. But we pretty much see that Aqua and Kana are walking together on this little street here, as we see that they both have some very interesting outfits on. Kana is just in her schoolgirl outfit, the one that she of course wore to the acting high school. And she's pretty much just got that on, and then a pair of glasses to, I guess, make her look like somebody else. And the design I really need to talk about here is Aqua's, who's, I don't know how to explain this, but Aqua just has a look going on here. As we see that Aqua, of course, has his long-sleeved white shirt on, he has a tie on, and then he has on what is seeming to be a very low-hanging sweater vest, a black sweater vest, that is exposing a good portion of his tie, and then he has a suit jacket around all of that, which is a fine enough look. But we didn't see that Aqua also is wearing a mask to like cover up his mouth, like a mask that was mainly worn like the COVID pandemic, not like an Oni mask or something, but like just like a breathing mask, which is like, okay, Aqua, why are you needing to wear this weird getup? But I mean, he's rocking it, I'll say. I don't know if he's actually rocking it, but he's doing something with it. But we pretty much see that Aqua is standing here, and he's looking over at Kana, and eventually he just speaks up saying like, hey, I wondered what was going on whenever you asked me to come in my uniform, which I don't remember this quite being Aqua's uniform for school, but I guess it always could have been. I mean, we really didn't see that much of the story and them and all of that school type of deal, so we don't really have too many images of what that looks like full on, because most of the stories like, hey, they're doing acting or something here, or Aqua is being dark and brooding in Gontona's office or in his room somewhere, right? Aqua we don't normally see him at school, by all means, right? So Aqua's like, yeah, I wondered what was going on whenever you asked me to come in my uniform. So I was like, say, so what's up with your outfit you got on there, right? And Kana's like, hey, don't you really just feel nostalgic about seeing me wear my high school uniform? And she's got its own, and she's sort of like adjusting her bow tie ribbon that she has on to close up her neck piece there. And she's wearing that. Aqua's like, hey, well, you're an alumni of the school, and if you're wearing that right now, isn't that just, like, no better than cosplay? And he's like, are you really okay with that? Which is like, Aqua, what is your problem with cosplay? I mean, I never saw you like, oh yeah, Aqua's a cosplay hater. He hates it. And then just think about, you did act in a 2D, in that 2.5D stage play where, you sort of were in cosplay the entire time, but, pretty much Kana's just like, hey, don't be so nitpicky. And she's like, hey, I wanted to do it properly, going on a date in a uniform, that is. And Aqua hears this, and he's just like, huh, what? A date? And he's like, wait, did you say date? And Kana is now pulled ahead of him. I mean, they're walking side by side, but she's sort of now pulled ahead of him, and she sort of goes and turns around, takes off her glasses, blushes a little, and she's like, yes, I did. As she sort of just, like, starts to put her glasses back on, and Aqua's like, oh, and he's like, okay, I see. And he's like, okay, well then do you have any, like, good plans for our date here? Like, what are we supposed to be doing, right? And eventually Kana's like, of course I know what I'm doing. As we see that, she pulls out a bag, or she's been holding a bag this entire time, and out of this bag, she pulls out a baseball and 2, baseball gloves. As she's like, hey, ta-da, here, you see what I got here, right? And Aqua's like, are you, like, sane, like, playing catch on a date? Like, what's going on here, right? And, Kana sort of, like, really one-ups Aqua here, and she's like, hey, I could say the exact same thing to Aqua from 2 years ago, as we get a few flashbacks of whenever actually Aqua and Kana went out and played catch for the first time, which, if you didn't quite remember the context for this, I honestly didn't quite remember either. I actually pulled down my Oshi no Ko volumes off my shelf to dig through them and actually see what was going on there. This actually happened in chapter 30 of Oshi no Ko, which was after the whole big stuff with the dating show that of course Aqua was on, and that's where Akane was introduced and Mimcho was introduced, and the other 3 characters that were introduced there. And the whole thing with that was that Aqua, of course, had just saved Akane from offing herself, pretty much. And Kana was a little bit down in the dumps, and Aqua came up and was like, hey, Kana, do you want to skip school? And Kana was like, sure. And they went out to play catch in the park, and it was sort of like a nice little scene where we see that both Kana and Aqua were just having a little bit of fun doing it. And by the end of it, they were both really enjoying themselves, pretty much, right? And of course, Kana's like, are you, like, staying, going out to play catch and all of this? And she was pretty much saying this, doing the same exact thing that Aqua is doing now, which is a nice little bit of a reversal of roles that we were seeing here. But eventually Aqua just speaks up and he's like, hey, I don't really mind. He's like, hey, things are really different now. And he's like, hey, we are both, like, extremely well known. He's like, the public and the tabloids are watching us very closely. And he's like, hey, we just can't go out to the park over there and play catch, right? As we see on the billboard, the same exact, like, lotion commercial that we've seen, or like a lotion billboard that we've seen with Aqua on it before. It's the same one that Akane looked to in the sky, I think, 2 chapters ago in number 149, right? But Kana's like, hey, don't worry, I've thought about all of this. She's like, hey, that's why I told you to come in a uniform. As we see that they go to their old high school, which I guess was Yoto High School. I don't remember that ever being pointed out before, but I'll believe it if the manga's saying it. But they go to the high school there, and pretty much Kana's like, hey, this is the exact opposite of what happened back then, right? He's like, hey, last time we ran away from school and played catch, we went to the park, but this time we're actually running to school to play catch, right? Which, again, is a little interesting. And Kana's like, hey, school is a place that actually protects its students, and I never really thought about all of that when I was still a student, right? As we see that Aqua's like, hey, you say it like you actually understand all of that. As we see that Aqua has taken off his mask so we can now see his face, which looks weirdly elongated in this scene. I don't know if it's just me or if it is probably just me. Let's be real here, right? But Akana's like, hey, and he's like, hey, I'm a grown woman too, you know. And she's just like, hey, so what are you going to do in the future? I mean, she's like, hey, you're smart and you should be able to get into a really good college, right? Of course, directing this to Aqua, who, as the ball comes towards him, he sort of catches it up in his hand, and he's like, well, for now, I'm planning on applying to medical school. And Kana's like, whoa, medical school? He's like, man, you're really going to be a doctor? And of course, she calls Aqua Akun here, and she's like, oh man, you're going to be a doctor, Akun? That's so cool, right? And Aqua's just like, hey, it was my dream to become a heart surgeon. A long time dream. As Kana sort of just hears this and really just brightens up her own mood, right? And she's like, man, I think it really suits you perfectly. And Aqua's like, yeah, do you really think so? And he's like, I mean, I don't necessarily think that. But Kana's like, oh man, it for sure does. And she's like, hey, I'm sure that you'll save many lives and bring a ray of hope to many people. You can become a good doctor. And as this happens, we see that, Aqua gets ready to go and throw the ball again as he sort of just throws it into the air. And this is just a really nice moment here. Because, of course, the whole idea of last chapter was fully blurring the lines between what was Goro and what was Aqua. And sort of leaving all of the thoughts of Goro behind to let Aqua live his life now in his own way. Even though they're the same person and all that. To sort of let Aqua be Aqua and not have just two Goros still sort of running around, if you get what I'm saying. And the whole idea here is that Aqua still has, because of course, Aqua is Goro. Goro and Aqua are the same person. So Goro, of course, had a lifelong dream of becoming a heart surgeon, and he never really succeeded in that. Of course, he was just like a good old doctor at best. He wasn't an actual heart surgeon. But Aqua is saying like, hey, I am going to do this, and of course, filling up Goro's dream. It's just a really nice moment there, and of course, Kana's support is very nice here to Aqua, of course. As, what's it said, Kana says like, hey, and it is perfect for you, someone like you who always wants to help others. As Aqua's like, oh, okay, I see. And he's like, so that's what you think, because we see that he goes and he takes his baseball glove, and he goes and he covers his face with it, sort of just blushing from hearing Kana say these really, really nice things about him. And Kana's like, oh, how unusual, are you that embarrassed? And, she's like, oh, I bet you really are. As we see that Aqua has now thrown that baseball, almost seems as hard as he can at Kana, and Kana catches it in her glove. And Aqua's like eventually like, hey, alright about that, then what's your dream? And he's like, hey, are you going to be a national actress after all? And Kana has this little bit of a moment where she's just like, oh, the dream about becoming an actress, well, I achieved that dream when I was like 5 years old. And Aqua's like, oh, yeah, that's right, you've been a big actress for a very, very long time, right? And eventually Kana sort of gets a little bit more vulnerable here and sort of just speaks her feelings and like, hey, obviously the more I sell, the better for me. And she's like, but I don't think I can really call that a dream anymore. And she says like, hey, in a sense, it was a life without dreams. And Aqua's like, okay then, well, was that just your only dream? But Kana sort of just blushes a little bit more and just says like, no, she's like, I have a new dream now. And Aqua's like, okay, well, what is this dream? As we see that Kana sort of does the same thing of pulling up her glove over her face, and she goes and she tosses the baseball back at Aqua, and Aqua sticks his hand up in the air to catch it, and eventually, as the ball is flying through the air, Kana says, oh, I want to be the only person you look at. And Aqua hears this, and this catches him super off guard as he sort of reaches up his hand to grab the ball, but it sort of goes into his glove, but it sort of just dips and falls right back out as Aqua just sort of holds up his arm in that position and obviously stunned by what Kana has just said. As Kana just continues saying like, hey, my current dream is to become your idol. Make sure you come to watch my Biko no Hachi recitement on Christmas, the last day of the tour. And she's like, I don't know if I can shine out Ruby, and I may not be able to brighten up the concert more than Mim, but I'll do my best. If you say that I'm Aqua Oshino's favorite idol, then I'll become your only star. As we just see a few more visuals here of just Kana and Aqua looking at each other, eventually ending up with the poster of the Bakuman Hachi live tour sign. I think it's in the Strawberry Productions headquarters there. And that is where we end off the chapter, with that sort of big declaration of like Kana finally saying everything that she's wanted to say for a while. And we sort of just see that Aqua is shocked by this. And of course, once Aqua sort of says like, hey, what is your dream? He doesn't say another word because, of course, he is shocked by everything Kana has just said. And I do enjoy this chapter. I don't think this is the best chapter of Oshi no Ko that we have necessarily had in a while. I mean, it definitely gets the point across on what it wants to do. I still think Aqua's get up at the beginning of the chapter is incredibly stupid, but eventually the roles of the two of them playing catch together is really nice. Of course, we get more ideas on like, all right, Goro Aqua wants to become a medical professional again, and Kana's dream, she's reached it and she wants to continue to be an actor, but she also wants to be in Aqua's vision. And of course, that's something that we know that she is really cared about, and just something that's really, really awesome to see. And one thing I do find a little bit interesting here is, as Kana says all this, of course Aqua still has his dark starry-gons in his eyes, but they do seem to be getting a little more white as the sort of sentences go on, so it's a little bit of an interesting note there. But I think this was just a really, really good chapter. Yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it, though. It really just gets all of these points across in a very, very good way of the whole, like, kind of like, hey, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to make you proud of me, all of that sort of stuff, and like, hey, of course, setting up the final idea of like, hey, come to the final concert of the live tour, and that'll be that, which, yeah, is very interesting. I'll be interested to see where this goes in the future, but I really don't have too much else to say about this chapter at this point. Yeah, it's just one of those chapters where once I review it, there's not really too much more to count on. It's like, hey, this is what happened, and that's sort of that. But hey, that's perfectly fine. So yeah, thank you guys so very much for watching this chapter number 151 review of Oshi no Ko. Again, good chapter, not really too much to say about it, but hey, if you did enjoy this review, maybe you'll enjoy some of the other reviews. I mean, last time I talked about chapter number 150, an amazing chapter of Oshi no Ko by all means, and I've also talked about plenty of other Oshi no Ko chapters before on the channel, so if you want to go check out those, there's going to be a playlist listed down in the description below, so go check out all of those videos. I think I've done like 40 of these reviews now, which is a little bit insane to think about, but I've done a few of them. I've been around the Oshi no Ko metaphorical block, I guess. So yeah, and if you did enjoy these, hopefully you won't mind subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment down in the descriptions down below about what you guys thought about this chapter, leaving a like on the video, and all of that other generally cool stuff. And yeah, I really don't have too much else to say. This, of course, has been Oshi no Ko, chapter number 150, titled Catch Ball. And I'll see you guys next time for chapter number 152. Yep, that'll be it for this one. This is going to be Glowplasma231, signing out.